All right, guys, thank you for that. And we are here with our Tuesday community segment, which means that it is time for a check call. We've got Mary O'Connell joining us here today. And Mary, we're going to be talking about Canada when it comes to cross-border freight. But before we dig into that, if no one saw your LinkedIn post yesterday, I want to talk about this really quickly because you got a really great honor. You're recognized as one of the top cold chain blogs for running on ice. And I just want to give you a big kudos and big shout out for that.
Thank you. It was definitely a surprise. I didn't know that it existed till we got the email, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And I was like, what is this? And yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. It's definitely a big honor. So big thanks to FeedSpot for, finding us and recognizing us. So yeah, I know we talked about check call today, but it was Running on Ice had a big day yesterday, and pretty proud of it.
I love that. I was going to talk about it on Friday, but I just wanted to give you the congratulations now. I feel like 4 days is too big of a gap to leave that news out there. So big congrats again for being one of those top blogs, and we can talk a little bit more Running on Ice on Friday.
Sounds good, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. And for anyone else who doesn't know about Running on Ice, just go to freightwaves.com/running on ice, and you're going to find some cool stuff. No pun intended.
The coolest community in freight, absolutely pun intended. So let's dig right into today's community. We're going to talk check call, and as we mentioned, cross-border freight has of course exploded in the U.S. to Mexico lane, but U.S. to Canada is still really, really profitable and really thriving as well. Let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we know that Canada is a big partner. They're a very easy partner for the U.S. to trade with just because of our relationship with their government and the policies back and forth. And let's talk a little bit about 3PLs who are really using this to their advantage.
Yeah, so Canada is, we're talking to Noah Seidenberg from Arrive Logistics today, and he's setting up the Canada office for Arrive. And I was like, that's a weird choice because everyone's kind of flocking to Mexico. But we kind of break down the reasons why and why it actually is a pretty good choice because, Canada's kind of where we were a couple years or maybe like 10 years ago in the 3PL market. There's not a lot of 3PLs. There's a lot of services out there. And really, Canada is very large. It is an aggressively large country, but pretty much once you get a couple 100 miles outside of the major cities, it's nothing. It's just the remote Yukon. It's that remote Great North that's so bitterly cold. There's some towns, but for the most part, it's not really very populated. So a lot of their commerce and trade happens, along that just across the border, a couple 100 miles. So it's a great opportunity. And up until I think this year, Canada was the top trading partner with the U.S. And now I think Mexico is just kind of slid in a little bit and taken that throne from them. I don't know if they'll take it for the whole year, but they've definitely taken it for the past few months, which again is not surprising given the rise of reshoring. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of opportunities in Canada that, are a little, I don't want to say easier because it's kind of like you're still doing cross-border freight. You're still having to do with different currencies and other things like that. So it's definitely an opportunity that, if you've got a Mexico operation shored up, well, maybe go north.
So I think that when we look at this and look at possible expansions, it's almost kind of daunting for a lot of 3PLs if they maybe have an operation set up here in the United States, especially if they're in more of the lower 48 and don't have those very close to the cross-border operations like in a Detroit or in an upstate New York, in a Cleveland, things like that, where you are physically, geographically very close to a port of entry like that. And it can be difficult to make that decision to go across the border, especially if you're really far from home. Arrive making this decision, what was kind of the big driving factor for them? Was it just the fact that it was a chance to expand into some place they hadn't been before, or was there something a little bit more anchoring to their choice to move up there?
So it was actually kind of more of it's a frontier that they haven't gone to before, but then also it's pretty much there are those companies that do cross-border freight, usually into Ontario and Quebec, and that's usually about typically where it'll stop. That's where people are really comfortable doing the one-off shoots or just a couple loads here and there. I don't know what it is about those provinces, but they've always gotten much more favorable pricing compared to the rest of Canada. So I'm sure there's some law somewhere that makes it easy. I just don't know what it is. but they just kind of saw that opportunity because, you know, like we have the giant brokerages here, your CH Robinsons, your Coyotes, everything like that. Like we have those large national brokerages. They have those in Canada, but there's not as many. So there is a good opportunity there to kind of come in and, you know, be that national recognized brokerage and be able to service all of Canada and the US as well. Because the interesting thing about Canada is, you know, when you go cross border, that driver, whether it's a Canadian driver bringing something from Michigan into Canada, or if they are an American driver going from, you know, Michigan into Canada, they go and actually complete that load wherever it is in Canada. They don't hand it off just on the other side of the border, or they don't have someone that their whole job is just to drive things back and forth across the border all day like we have in Mexico. So the driver stays with the load and goes up into Canada. So I think it's going to be, I think it was a smart play. And the biggest hurdle that comes with it is, you know, setting up your TMS for an entire other country, because Canada uses letters in their zip codes, and it's a pain in the butt to get any TMS to work with.
So that also brings up a really good opportunity that ties into this for your TMS providers who are maybe looking for another avenue into some more business and are expanding their business, looking at cross-border operations and making maybe a singular system that works for across every different country codes, things like that. Is that a good opportunity we can maybe see some of these TMS providers chase in the future?
Oh, absolutely. If you're a TMS provider and you don't have a way to handle Canadian or at the same time Mexican shipments, if you don't have a way for those to seamlessly flow into your TMS, that is a huge missed opportunity. And I think that if it's on the roadmap but not very high up on the roadmap, maybe scooch it up a couple spots, because it's going to be because as you know, we shift more, and we're starting to see it with nearshoring and other things like that. As we shift more to, you know, an entire North America type of commerce and trade and everything like that, those are going to become table stakes eventually. Is I'm going to need to be able to have visibility on a load all the way from Canada. If it starts in like the Great North, if it goes there all the way down to if it goes to the tip of Miami. So it's something like that where you do need those visibility tools. So if you're a TMS provider and you don't have it on the roadmap, put it on the roadmap. And if it's on the roadmap, but it's not very high up, scooch it up a little bit. I'm not saying it needs to be the next thing that you work on, but it should probably be in the top 3, because you want to make sure that you're evolving with your customers and with your clients. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard because of just how the different countries set up everything. But at the same time, it's going to be pretty important in my opinion.
I think it's going to be worth it at the end of the day as well. Mary, thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll see you on Check Call later on this afternoon. Have a great day.
You as well, guys. Thank you.